Welcome to Mac and Bleu, the cutting-edge podcast for the nation's builders, merging the realms of construction with exciting advancements in technology. Join us on a thrilling journey where we delve into the dynamic world of blockchain, AI, the metaverse, virtual and augmented reality, and their transformative impact on the industry. Our engaging discussions span a wide spectrum, covering not only construction, economic development, supply chain, and market segments, but also exploring the vibrant tapestry of diversity within the construction landscape. We shed light on the intersection of local politics and its profound influence on the construction sector, while championing the remarkable contributions of women and minorities in construction. For all things Mac and Bleu, head to www.macandbleu.com, and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mac and Bleu. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky, CEO and co-founder of Bleu. Today I have Anna Tomboulian and Vincent Serpico. Did I get that right? Serpico. It only took me 3 times to get through my monthly.
It happens all the time, JJ. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so the cool part about them is they are in the AI software space, all of the fun things that every company needs. So again, for the context for the listener and the audience of why you're here today is when we switched from building Arizona to building the future. I think Vincent, we were talking that I saw an article about you and I'm like, oh, this would be perfect to get on to the Mac and Bleu podcast to help share with everyone that needs to know. We've talked about it. We can get in the argument of AI versus machine learning, all that kind of stuff. You know how that's all taboo and all trendy in your world right now as far as what the topic actually means. But more importantly, I think it was the software development, how this is, how companies are being able to talk to people like you, to smart people, and effectuate change within their business. And I think that's why I wanted you on today. So with that, the audience always likes to get to know a little bit about both of you and their background. So if you don't mind, I don't care which one of you start. And then let's go through backgrounds and then let's dive right into some of the fun stuff of like what's going on. We were talking off air that you guys are, this is like your 5th speaking engagement this week alone, and all the things that you guys are doing in your industry, because I think people want to know inherently, what does it mean to me? How does that impact my business? And how can I learn from your storytelling today and maybe reach out to a company like either one of you or anybody that needs help in that space? Is that fair?
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Vincent, fire away.
Alrighty, so my name is Vincent Serpico. I've been in software development professionally about 25 years. Started when I was 14, actually. I taught myself how to code on Commodore 64.
Yes.
You remember the Commodore 64, huh?
I have a story. We know a guy, that's how his salutation still, he puts on the bottom of his salutation, Commodore 64.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So, after school and on weekends, that's how I spent my my 9th grade. I had just a blast doing it. And, I'll go into my background, but let me tell you that in all my years of coding professionally and, just for fun, I have never seen anything like what we have right now with AI. I've never seen anything like it. I started in AI about 6 or 7 years ago, taught myself how to code traditional machine learning, and I can tell you what's going on today is going to literally change everything. A little history about me, been in technology for 25 years, worked as a developer, climbed the ranks, CTO, all that kind of great stuff. Started my own company about 14 years ago. It's called Founders Workshop. We build mobile apps, web apps, and system workflows and integrations for entrepreneurs and SMBs. We built about 150 of them over the last 14 years. And always been into AI. And very recently, I co-founded Decision Tree AI for the specific purpose of focusing that company only on AI. So Decision Tree AI only does AI. I'll let Anna talk a little bit more about Decision Tree.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little about me. This is my second AI startup, and my first one was all about conversational intelligence and understanding if there was a new patient calling in or an existing patient, and if they booked or they didn't book, or why didn't they book for front desks of dental practices. Which, if you have ever tried to call your dental practice, you probably understand that's kind of painful.
So can you give an example of how can you give an example, without mentioning names, a company how did it help or transcend what they were doing?
So we took a lot of these large conglomerates of dental practices called dental service organizations. They always want to grow, and they they spend like 100 to 200 bucks on marketing per month. And that's to get flyers out to people. It's really old school, but
Flyers.
Yeah, exactly.
This is 2023.
I know. This was 2020 and it was still quite crazy.
Okay.
So in the marketing companies were so pissed because they would do so much work to get these flyers out, and they couldn't prove that they were doing what they said they were doing or turning those into leads because the front desk would screw it up. According to them. And what they used to have to do actually was to try to get some transcripts of the phone call, and they would actually by hand try to write them out. It's pretty crazy. The only way that a sales organization, it's like an inbound sales, would be able to function normally is from call analytics, like traditional call analytics. Right. And it's like the dentist, the only way they would know about how sales was going would be to ask their front desk person, how's sales? Or they could literally write down paper notes, about who called in and for what, or put it into this dinosaur of a EMR system called Dentrix. It's or electronic medical records system, and it looks like it was written in the early 2000s for sure. But yeah, pretty nuts. We just took the call audio, turned that into transcripts, and we're able to identify those new patients and just bug the front desk to call them back if they didn't book. And we helped them. Basically, there was a lot of revenue leakage that would have occurred, but didn't occur because of that.
Can you remember a specific analytic that would resonate with the audience as far as like a transformation of, hey, we went from a 20% conversion rate to an 80% conversion rate? Was there anything like that you could share that puts relevance to what you're saying? Yeah,
so we took one company from, it was pretty abysmal. Like they turned 30% of their new patients into actual patients, and we got that up to 85%.
85%.
So, yeah. The ones that they didn't change it, by the way, were unqualified, and we had to start having a whole other system that we developed to understand if they were qualified new patients or not.
And okay, so that big of an increase, but how much of a spend did they increase with you?
0.
See?
I mean, because...
Are you paying attention, audience?
Yeah, so basically it was per location, right? So, you get 200, we started at a $200 price point per location, and then it ended up getting up to like 300. But let's say we saved them 2 new patients that month. Well, they've already paid for it at that point. Now, if we save them 20 new patients, you can see how they can't turn us off.
Right.
So that was how I got my start in it. And then that was pre-ChatGPT, or before ChatGPT, BC.
Is that the acronym out there?
Yeah, it's starting to take off, yeah. So that was a lot harder to educate and explain to clients why it was important. But, I think that the major indicator during that time, because it was all remote, was how glued to the screen these people's faces were when they would see the wireframes of actually being able to see this information in front of their eyes, because before they had no clue.
Right.
It was not measured. And you have to measure what matters if you want to grow your business.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Sean? You have to measure what matters.
That's a pretty good phrase. I know it's from a pretty awesome book.
He's over there thinking about his last IQ test, so just bear with him.
Wow. Tough crowd.
Come on, we have a great synergy here. Just Hey. Your shoe size in centimeters.
Wow.
See, we have a lot of bantering here.
Yeah, that's how you know you're friends. Yeah.
Keep your.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. That little story, whether you know or not, if I'm listening or watching, it's like, oh, now I have relevance to how we can keep going down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk to me. You brought up a very good point. I think everyone wants to know, in your world, what was like the pre-chat GPT to now what's going on. I'm sure we could spend an hour on that alone, but can either of you kind of distill it down for the common layperson to understand what was before and now what's now?
Yeah, it's so there's a difference between
or BARD or whatever. Yeah,
absolutely. So when I first taught myself machine learning 6 or 7 years ago. So machine learning is different than ChatGPT and other types of neural nets. The biggest difference is that machine learning is based on algorithms and mathematical equations, some of which were written about 300 years ago and just put into practice today. So
say that again, 300 years ago.
Yeah. Like for instance, Bayes' algorithm
Yep.
was created 260 years ago by Reverend Bayes. He did it all by hand, and it was used for the last 260 years, but just put into huge practice, with computers and compute power today.
Yeah.
Traditional machine learning is algorithmic. It's mathematical. It looks for patterns in data sets. Like for instance, everyone here has heard of a decision tree, and a decision tree is what's used when you get your credit checked. You know what I mean? So a decision tree will put in certain information about you when you want to get a new credit card or a house or whatever you're looking for a loan for, and it'll run through a tree until it gives you an answer. Yes, you're approved. No, you're not approved. And you can look back on that anytime you want and say, here's the exact method that it approved you or didn't approve you. It's very, very transparent. It's all algorithmic and it's all mathematical. Meanwhile, AI engineers have been working on something called neural nets for about 70 years, all right? Mostly without success. And what a neural net is, it is a AI based on neurons like the human brain. Okay, so instead of using algorithmic and mathematical formulas, it uses what's called a neural net, which looks very similar to the neurons inside of a human brain. Right. Neurons connecting to each other. Right. And how does a human brain work? Human brain works is we get input, sight, sound, smell, touch, balance, whatever, right? And something happens inside the brain, and then some output happens. What's the output? An action that we move, or we say something, or we feel pain or pleasure or whatever. And an AI neural net works very similar. A whole bunch of data is put in there, let's say all the data on the internet, right? Then something happens inside of it, and then what comes out on the other side, in this case, is ChatGPT. So the ability to have a conversation with data is an emergent property of a large language model, an AI neural net. It's an emergent property because the goal was to train a large neural net with a huge corpus of data to see what the outcome would be. And what the outcome, what happened was we were able to have natural language conversations with data. It far surpassed anybody's expectations.
Right.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, most AI scientists figure that something like this would happen 20 to 30 years from now. So what does that really mean? It means that the large language model was able to see patterns inside of a huge corpus of data. And how important is that? Well, everything we do is language, right?
Right.
I mean, right now, we're not, we're not pantomiming to each other. We're speaking to each other, right? Because we'll get our.
They're over there giving me the birds. So
right. Well, we're able to communicate so much better through speaking.
Right.
Arguably, you could say that language is more important than vision. You know what I mean? And if I wanted to convey ideas to you, I could. But yeah, you're gonna say, JJ.
So Vincent, my nascent mind goes to asking this question. If in your world all the engineers got together and they said that this outperformed, the first thing that came to my mind was we underestimated the data, that corpus of data. Because by having all that data, the machine learning was able to extrapolate that much more information and raise it to the nth power. And that was what allowed us to go faster and deeper than what the engineers anticipated. Is that a fair assumption, or am I missing something?
It's not the data that we underestimated. What we underestimated was the ability to create a emergent property from the pattern recognition of the data.
Thank you for qualifying that. You see how that's very important for people to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That was good.
And that was created with an architecture that came out in 2017 by Google called Transformers. Okay. And Transformers is an AI architect for neural nets that is literally changing everything. You're seeing it across large language models now, but it's also being introduced into image generation models as well.
Okay.
So, we're at a point right now where your AI can understand the corpus of data on the internet, which is essentially all human knowledge. So it is seeing patterns in human behavior that us humans are not even seeing.
Yeah, I mean, anything that's a symbolic set, like our culture actually can be considered to be something that can be mapped out, and we don't often think about it. It's something that is actually almost installed on people's brains, depending on all the different influences throughout their life as a blank slate as a child going all the way through their current life. So, if I say the word ring, for some people, their personal bias towards that ring is based upon if they had a divorce. Or if you're working in conversational intelligence like I am, and I'm thinking about ringing phones, there's a very different usage of the same word. So that's a symbol that can be used many different ways. So the ability to train that large corpus of data means that we have all the different representations of that word, and it's not like whenever you're chatting back and forth with a chatbot, it used to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Now it actually understands when you go outside of the parameters that were, marked out, like this is the next step and the next step and the next step. It understands when you go outside the box, because there is no box. It really is literally the pathways between the neurons and how often that it gets that pathway gets gone down, essentially, to have a weight or a bias on each of those pathways.
I also want to double click on what Anna just said, because it's really important for our listeners, is that these transformers can work on essentially any type of symbolic set. So right now the symbolic set that we're using is language, right? But a symbolic set can be numbers, right? A symbolic set could be the sounds that chimpanzees make, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a symbolic set can be literally anything.
It's unlimited almost.
It's unlimited, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Everything's a symbolic set.
With enough data, we can do anything.
So we'll just keep going tangential until the hour will be up before we know it anyway. I heard an argument. I was passively listening to an argument the other day. I didn't hear the conclusion, but someone was arguing that betting, all the billions and millions of dollars that are done betting, that because of where you guys are, can people start gaming the system? In other words, can you start to use AI and machine learning to basically figure out the odds and improve your betting capabilities? Is that true?
We already see that in the stock market, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, algorithmic trading is done in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So we're already seeing that in the stock market, and that's actually nothing new. That's been around for
True. Good example.
for a while. So will it happen with horse betting and stuff like that with enough data? Yes.
Okay.
With enough data, it will.
And I want to piggyback on that as well. I mean, Vincent and I have been approached by several different investment firms to actually to get a 10% edge on qualifying different companies that they're actually interviewing for raising money and their rounds and writing checks, basically. So they understand that if they don't build it now, they're going to be having to compete with other investment firms that are going to be able to get those winners more easily.
That's a really, really good point. I'm an angel investor, okay? A significant amount of my portfolio is in angel investments. Maybe 13, 14 investments total, right? And the idea is that, you'll probably lose all your money on 7 of the 10. Mm-hmm. 2 of the 10, if you're lucky, you'll break even, right? And 1 out of the 10 will make it up for all of them, right? So imagine getting a 10% better odds, right? That's huge right there. With AI the way it is today, we're able to take that data and create that model. So we're not looking at something that will give you a 99.999% edge. Like, a self-driving car has to be 99.99999% accurate. But an algorithm like this only needs to be 10% accurate.
Mm-hmm. So I brought this
more
up
accurate.
More accurate. Yeah, right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Fair.
I brought this up on a couple other shows only because it was applicable. But I'm interested to hear your perspective. You keep bringing up the data. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm going to ask, if I go back 5 years compared to now, think of if I have the ring.
Yeah.
I'm letting my data be out there for everyone to use. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the athlete. Let's use the sports betting is an easy one for everyone to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden all the athletes are wearing their rings and their biometrics are being uploaded into whatever, the cloud. Hey, I know their blood pressure. I mean, I can track everything, right? I'm getting family history. I can deal. The more I have, the more I can almost influence how the performance is going to come out of their collective team. Because again, that's just crunching numbers at that point. I guess my question to you is, should society not be worried about it? Because again, but understand that's where all that stuff is coming from. Is the more you divulge about yourself, the more everyone can extrapolate that information for good or for or worse, right? Isn't that the truth?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you guys have any comments about that, or how you look at it from the world that you guys function from, as far as the data collection on humans?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that from a health perspective, I think that that's a very sensitive subject, right? But I think that...
But it could also save people's lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. Vincent and I have also been approached for, working in cytogenetics, where you look at chromosomes and see that you have all of the pairs, or you don't have some that are missing, you have none that are changed from what they should be, things like that. And that takes lab technicians 45 minutes each to check that out. And it is brutally, like, you have to really scan with your eyeballs, and they don't get paid a whole lot for that. And there's a lot of retention issues,
Did she say something? I don't know. She said something about retention. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of labor that, there's just some jobs that, are hard to keep. I mean, that's not even that dirty of a job, but think of all the other dirty jobs, actually, that could be helped by this.
Right.
And if you reduce that time down from 45 minutes to 10 minutes, that's huge. Now, you always want to have a human in the loop to really make sure and check. But, this group...
But like you said, you're buying the percentage down.
Yes, exactly.
Time, money, mistakes, all of it.
Yes. And what the client had said before was actually back when they were doing analog film. Yeah. This used to be a huge time sink of just developing the film and then being able to detect things. And the quality wasn't that great. And the medical community was so, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you are changing over to digital photos for this. It's just a waste of time. You've got to do it the old-fashioned way, because it's actually, you're going to get more out of it. You're going to detect more of these. And what they found is the opposite, that they started to use digital photos and they were able to detect more anomalies. So I think what's going to happen naturally from this is, now that we have both silicon-based intelligence and carbon-based intelligence looking at the same photos, that we're actually going to catch more anomalies, because we're going to actually have other patterns that are detected that we don't even always detect. So
absolutely right. That is absolutely right. And I'm a huge advocate of get as much data as you possibly can, ethically, of course, naturally. Don't take people's data, but data is gold or oil, however you want to look at it. And if you've got proprietary data, like blogs that you wrote or content that you've created or podcasts that you created, you're in a situation of creating a model that you could sell. All right. OpenAI just announced that they're going to be opening up a marketplace where you can train your own models. All right, and sell those models to other folks. It's going to be like the new app store, where you train a model based on your data, and somebody will want to go ahead and purchase it. Right? Oh, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, you're already seeing it on some companies are doing it, like Poe is doing it to create character bots and stuff like that. But you're going to see an explosion of it. So if you've got data, you've got the potential to make money in this field, a lot of money too, and I'm all for the training as much data as possible. So like you said, sure, the health information is private, and you only want to share it if you give permission to share it. But if you do, you're contributing to the training of a model that's going to see, as Anna said, properties that even we didn't see. It's going to happen. That's going to happen a lot.
Yeah, and I want to say, I think that it is good for us to be able to allow for opt-in and opt-out. I think that apparatuses need to be made for that, for what's up on the internet so far. I know that those precautions need to be in place. Just like when Google Images came out, at first people were definitely using it for the wrong purposes, but then they started to have like for commercial use, for free if only used for educational purposes. You can now filter, so that's going to naturally happen. But I think for the most part, that data just sits on a shelf, and if it's gathering dust, might as well use it for a purpose. And for me personally, I would like to see, on our driver's license or whatever it's going to be, like it'll be in an Apple Wallet at some point or Google Wallet, not just your organ donor sticker, but it's also your, like, all of your health data sticker.
What's fun?
For training.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
At a much lower inception, if I can call it that. I hadn't been to Europe for a while, and we just went over there this summer. It was earlier this June, and I was blown away how cashless society, just everything was digital, and I mean instantaneous, even in rural nowhere. Okay, and then I came back to the States, and I was like, wow, we're this advanced superpower, and yet people still have checkbooks and all this kind of, it was just kind of surreal. And then you have the contrarians, and I get it, of like, hey, if we go to a cashless society, the economic model's all upside down. I mean, I'm not here to be judge or jury of the geopolitical part of that, but I'm just from that aspect of it, of being the connectivity and everything, it was a big difference to see the Euro model versus where we're at in the adaptation of that technological platform.
Well, we're definitely behind a lot of infrastructure beyond just the economy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a little bit of a tangent. Can we go back and talk a little bit about, are you co-founders of Decision?
We're both co-founders of Decision Tree AI,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
What is excuse me, I have this tickle cough. Is that kind of the new thing for you? Is that where your energy is put outside of what you traditionally were doing?
So I still own Founders Workshop.
Okay.
Founders Workshop is a 30-person software development shop, mobile apps, web apps, system workflows, and integrations.
Which still has a need.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
At Decision Tree AI, we focus only on creating AI. So what does that mean? That means that we help businesses leverage their data and their processes using AI. And that's done in a variety of ways, maybe creating workflows for them, automated workflows for them, RPAs with AI in it. Maybe it means creating a vector database for them, or fine-tuning a model for them, or creating a bot for them using tools from OpenAI. So we got a lot of use cases on the table, and just as many use cases, we're getting client needs that are across the board with AI.
Anything to add to that, Anna?
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure how much of the audience knows necessarily about vector databases and things like that. So I would say that, in so many words, AI can be used to save on costs, especially labor costs. And I think that it's going to empower your workforce to do more than they're currently doing. Like, I've already been hearing about some organizations where one person is running an entire department worth of what humans could have achieved with AI, and so by a department that could have been 8 heads of people. And it's not to say that we're eliminating jobs. It's more about making the existing jobs more performant
and scalable.
Yes, exactly.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll put myself and our company on the chopping block as far as we've made strategic decisions this past year to use AI.
Good.
And
awesome.
But it was for the reasons that you talked about. we didn't want to eliminate jobs. What we wanted to do is say, hey, we're scaling by 10x. How the hell do we do it? Because we can't find qualified people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So it's like, hey,
you've got to grow.
And luckily we had a few people on staff that just were not afraid to dive into it.
Yes.
Embrace it. Embrace the suck that was, just being the first. And now it's like a good cancer. Now everyone's using it.
Yes.
And yes, there are certain things I think that it's eliminated. Think of a lot of paperwork. I can use like HR specifically, a lot of HR compliance type stuff. It's just, man, AI is great.
Yeah.
Because you can do it all.
Totally.
And think of the writing concepts, I'm calling it the very simple chat GPT type stuff. That has been huge. But for someone to be able to scale at 8 to 10x and then still have a person there to have connectivity to your client base and then support it with the bot style, it's like the best of both worlds.
Well, let's go over an actual use case that we use at Founders Workshop, okay?
Okay.
So, you know what a mock-up is, right?
Yep.
When you want to create an app, the designer will create a mock-up for you, right? All right. And then with good software development, the project manager will then create user stories and use cases, and QA will create test scripts, right?
Okay.
The user stories and use cases usually takes a few hours to create, and the QA test scripts also take a few hours to create at a minimum. You can say the two of them together is easily a full day work, if not more, right?
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yep.
So not imagine, but this is what we actually do. We take those mock-ups, right? We upload it to a large language model, and we ask the large language model, create the user stories and use cases based on this mock-up that you're looking at. It'll create all the user stories and use cases. Sometimes it'll create user stories and use cases that we didn't even think of before, not from lack of experience. I've been doing this shit for 25 years, but again, emergent properties. And then we upload the exact same user stories, use cases, and mock-ups, and we say create all the QA scripts. And again, it'll create things that we didn't think of because it's able to see a lot more holistically than any single human. So we've taken a full day of work, say 8 to 10 hours of work, and boiled it down to about 30 minutes to an hour, because you got to review and everything and make sure everything looks good. And we're going to start seeing that across the board with a lot of industries. I mean, you might be saying, well, why would I want to go to a dev shop that uses AI to create my user stories and create my QA? Well, the question would be, why wouldn't you go to
wouldn't you?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, Harvey is coming out really soon, okay? I'm sorry, not Harvey, but PalmMed 2. Harvey is going to be a large language model for lawyers, and PalmMed 2 is a large language model for doctors, okay?
Yep.
And you're going to start seeing that in doctors' offices. And essentially, PalmMed 2 is going to have, the entire collective experience of all medicine throughout the ages and be able to see things that doctors can't see. So then the question is, would you go see a doctor that doesn't use an AI? I certainly wouldn't. You know what I mean?
I have a friend who got misdiagnosed so many times, and so they are pretty fed up right now. I can't imagine if AI would have helped earlier, that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Vincent and Anna, let me ask you a question. As you were telling that story, Vincent, I saw the language part. Okay, I'm visualizing here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a visual learner, so it was like, okay, through my own experiences, I get the words in the language component. I even get the visual component, right? Like everything that's out there, you have all this visual uptick, but you were talking about all the senses. Tell me what's happening next, because we seem to have the language and the visual piece extrapolated. What's coming next? Is it behavioral? Is it this? Is it that?
Well, we got audio too, right? So we got
audio,
right. So
okay.
we have text, we got
Multimodal.
vision, and we got audio.
Yeah.
Again, from you guys,
Yeah.
you get to play in all the cool stuff. What's
Yeah.
coming next?
Yeah, so from multimodal, we're able to take in all of those different inputs, and then, it's time to make decisions with it. And instead
Okay.
of instructing the computer to make a decision from it, you start to say, act like this.
Ooh.
You're telling your intern, hey, when you see this, do this. Not just tell me something, but do it. And now we're going to also have insurance for that because, humans make mistakes, and so will AI.
Yeah.
And so who accepts the
but
blame?
robot insurance is cheaper than human insurance.
I hope so, but if it depends on how expensive the work the robot is doing versus the human is doing.
Hey, angel investor, let's get that underwriting going.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I'm excited about that's coming next is something called autonomous agents. Okay, and what is autonomous agents? It is, well, let's kind of just take a quick trip through the past of
Please do.
of user interfaces. So when computers first came out, you had to program the actual circuitry. All right,
Agreed.
you were messing around with the ones and zeros. It was like a super hard job, and you were a superhero if you could do it. Okay, then command line interfaces came out in the early 1960s, and programs like assembler came out. Assembler is a really, really hard language by today's standards, but back then it was considered a huge improvement over ones and zeros, okay? So command line interfaces were out for a while, and it made interfacing with computers that much easier. Then in the 1980s, graphical user interfaces came out, and it made it infinitely easier to work with computers, right? Now we're on the dawn of the linguistic user interface, alrighty? And what does that mean exactly? So think about this. Inside of an Excel spreadsheet, you take all your financial data, all your books and everything, your P&L, your balance sheet, whatever like that, and you start creating, formulas to add stuff up and see, what your COGS were, or average net revenue, whatever, and you do all that stuff in Excel. That's great. Okay, so imagine when, this is actually very, very soon, I'm talking about days to weeks, when a large language model is integrated inside of Excel, right? Well, instead of you trying to figure out all these formulas yourself, you might say to the large language model, I need you to go ahead and create a formula that will add up and divide all of these numbers. All right, well, if you do that, then the next thing you say to yourself is, wait a minute, why do I even need to ask the large language model to create the formula? All I have to do is ask the large language model what the final results are.
Yeah.
All right. And then if you're doing that, then you go a step further and say to yourself, well, what the fuck do I even need Excel for? I'll just point it at my bank and say, hey, according to my bank and all the previous statements, tell me what you think my net revenue is going to be this year or my expenses are going to be this year. So we're no longer playing with a graphical user interface. We're playing with a linguistic user interface.
That was a very good story. and relatable. So
Yeah.
you did a good job of explaining that. And I agree with you. I mean, you're already seeing that for the people that are in, you guys have heard this before. Are you at the bleeding edge or the leading edge of your respective industries? And this isn't even bleeding edge anymore. That's just leading edge.
Yeah.
So cool. Hey, go back. The other thing I wanted to ask you, we talked about all your different speaking engagements and what you're doing. What in those things, because I might not be able to ask all the right questions and prop that information out of you. What are some takeaways from those engagements that you feel the audience would love to know about, like what you guys are working on or in?
So for AZ.AI, it's an organization that was started between folks from Tucson and Phoenix with the goal of making Arizona the #1 AI state. I mean, it's a lofty goal,
cool.
But yeah, we're going to be going back and forth each month.
Shoot big.
Yeah, that's right. But, we're taking AI from novelty to utility. And it's spearheaded by spearheaded by
Brendan Wilson.
I didn't want to mess it up.
Wilson.
Brandon Wilson and Aaron Eden and Lucas Petty and who else we got? I think there's a couple more. Yeah.
Is it all just industry, or is there educational involvement, like U of A or ASU or any of the geek factories?
Currently industry, but we are talking to a couple of very large government associations right now.
Yes.
That you can't mention.
Well, not until the deals are done, right?
I know. Yeah, okay. Just leave NSA out of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's been talks of actually creating degree programs in AI. And so that's could tie into AZ.AI. We don't know. But, I've been working in helping students get involved in Python for a very long time, back before Python was not really considered to be as popular as it is today. And the reason Python has gotten popular is because most of the AI transformer models are accessed via Python. So it's the natural next steps. Most of the mentees that have been flocking to me want to get into AI. So, and I think, what might start to happen here is much to like the analogy between, hygienists and dentists. We've got junior engineers and senior engineers. I think that, how about this? How expensive would it be for the dentist to be the one cleaning your teeth?
pretty expensive.
Oh yeah. So instead of having a senior engineer create these graphical user interfaces that we all kind of already know, or even the mock-ups that Vincent was talking about, you can go a step further and say, okay, now I've got this mock-up, just generate the code for that. And they can read and follow instructions and make what they need to make. It's almost going to be like data entry was, and still is. So I think that's going to be the next steps, but we're also going to need to, there's going to be much more of a gap to traverse to make a junior engineer as good as a senior engineer. So we are actually in talks with some universities right now to create some curriculum. And that can be very difficult because the AI landscape changes so rapidly.
I was going to say,
by the time you're done with
machine learning
the
will just
curriculum.
outpace the curriculum.
You know,
Exactly.
anyone who's on the administrative staff of ASU, I apologize for saying this, but to everyone out there, I do not recommend that you take courses at college for AI. By the time the curriculum is created, it's all going to change. I mean, it changes so fast. I've seen companies this year rise and fall literally overnight just based on features released by OpenAI or Microsoft or Anthropic or any of that. But to answer your original question, I think that what we want folks to take away from all these speaking engagements that we're doing is that AI is not optional. Right?
Yeah.
It's not, should we get into AI? The question is, how fucking fast can you get into it and not lose your competitive advantage? You know? It's like,
Word.
imagine, one day, a couple hundred years ago, somebody say, hey, you see this Industrial Revolution thing? You think I should get into it, or, is it a fad?
Sure, keep my horse.
Yeah. And then somebody said, hey, you see this, Faraday did this demo on electricity. You think it's going anywhere?
So
right.
Here's one, and again, maybe this is a real naive question, but the companies that took again, back to the bleeding edge, the Googles or whoever, with the transformers and whatnot, are they now scared shitless of this because basically it's an equalizer, or are they just figuring out different ways to monetize it and keep control of that? In other words, the same fear that everyone has in like big pharma and it's big government, big companies.
Right.
How does that play out in AI?
So the large companies have an advantage over startups. All right, it's unfortunate.
No doubt.
As an entrepreneur, I don't like it, but they do have a advantage. They have an advantage because they can pay for compute.
Yeah.
Right. They can pay for data. Well, that's it, compute and data, right? And they can
The two big things.
Yeah, right. They can pay for compute and data. Now, if a small startup has access to some really, really good data, that's a competitive advantage. There's no doubt about it. But
Especially a niche.
Especially a niche. Yeah, right, exactly.
Domain knowledge is key here because that's what.
So do you think that you're going to see more of back to what we keep seeing over and over again is those niches turn into something? It's M&A, buy roll-ups, they're coming in, giving 15 multiples to their EBITDA and saying, we'll just buy you out. Is that the same thing going to happen?
Yeah. So think about somebody who does podcasts for years, right? And they've written tons of content on it, right? Imagine you taking all that content and training your own model. It's not as hard to do as you might think it is, right? Now you've got a model that you can sell to anybody else that wants to get into podcasting, and there's hundreds of thousands of people that want to do it, and they might buy your model because instead of reading all your blogs, they can simply have a conversation with your data. We're going to see marketplaces like that very, very soon. There was an announcement today about it. So we're going to see a lot of marketplaces like that. And then we're going to see, how business always works. PEs are going to get in there and they're going to buy, so you do podcasts and you do this. And so they're going to buy them and roll them up.
Yeah.
It is definitely a industry you're going to want to get into. So either you're going to buy a model, sell a model, or both.
Good answer. So you already said this, but go a little deeper about SMBs. If they're scared isn't the right word. Okay, if you're going to start, what should they start with?
Okay, so I always
give the lesson of, listen, you can't wait any longer. Get in, and this is your trajectory. You should go on. Now I realize some will go faster, some will go slower, but lay out just the how do you get off top dead center?
Do it yourself, you mean?
No, the again back to SMBs about how. What's the question I'm trying to ask here? Vincent, give them the kick in the ass that they need.
Okay, so if you own an SMB, then
we should define SMB.
Oh yeah, a small and medium-sized business.
Sorry, I knew what it
even even if you own an SME, or if you work at an SME or an SMB, the first thing I recommend is that you get everybody in your company GPT-4 Plus version. Okay, it's $20 a month, which is insanely cheap. All right,
Yep.
think about if you can hire a reasonably good intern for $20 a month. How many would you hire? As many $20 bills as you have. Right? Yeah, exactly. You hire as many as you possibly can. So there's no excuse not to have GPT-4. Huge changes were announced just today, just this morning. By the time this podcast airs, most people who already use GPT will know it. But, you've got the ability for GPT-4 to think about data, to output really any type of copy. And this is a general purpose tool, right? Just like electricity is general purpose. And then you start seeing a lot of other businesses using it for very specific purposes. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. The very first thing is get GPT-4, get it for everybody, and empower all of your employees and play around with it as much as you possibly can. People like Anna and I use it literally all day long. I mean, take my phone before you take ChatGPT from me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's a caveat here that you don't want to give all of your data to ChatGPT in such a way that you can at least not train it into your model or into the large language model. If you're giving your profit and loss statement, you might want to turn that off. There's a setting.
Got it.
So just basic training about that, because as Samsung leaked very major information about their some of their IP for some of their products, and it is now something you can query in ChatGPT now, and so you just have to be careful.
Step one is to use ChatGPT, but as Anna said, don't put any personal data in it.
Yeah.
Step two is to use the OpenAI API, or whoever you want to use. You don't have to use OpenAI. You can use anything else. You can use Vertex,
Claude.
you can use Anthropic, whatever. But use the API. Okay, with the API, you'll be able to do several orders of magnitude more than you can do just with GPT. Plus, your data stays private, so you can start putting in confidential and proprietary data there. But start with GPT. See GPT-4, of course, and see what you like, and start looking at use cases. Anything that is copy and pasted, anything can be automated, all right? Anything that requires a little bit of creativity can be automated. Maybe not replaced, but automated. Again, look at the example of writing use cases, user stories, and QA. I certainly wouldn't automate that, but my project managers and my QA are able to save literally hours on every single project by having GPT create the scripts for them and create the user stories, and we're able to pass those savings on to our customers.
Yeah.
I
think the one takeaway listening to you just over this the short time we've been together is, and again, I'll fall on the sword here, use our company as an example. I think we leveraged a lot of things for operations already, but the one that I gleaned out of you was the financial piece. Taking that and asking the questions, I was like, duh, we went this far, why not go a little further?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, get this report, why can't I get,
Yeah.
Instead
what
of-
are your current tasks you're trying to
I was
accomplish?
thinking too literally instead of
Yes.
figuratively about how to get to what the data is that I want.
Zoom out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I use it most frequently for is, I'm a technical nerd, and I'm getting into sales and stuff, and like, I'm learning how to interact with people sometimes, and I'm like, what was the other word besides follow up? Because everybody hates that word, and I can ask ChatGPT those things. Now, like, it doesn't replace actual skill learning like I've done.
True.
Right. But, if I forget something, I'd always ask that anything you would Google, you can use ChatGPT for. But then also to take it a step further is like, maybe that's a skill that you're not so confident in. What is the skill that you're already confident in? You just, you took a step further right there. And then on top of it is like, what are you curious about? I mean, there's all sorts of things that, you might be surprised to know. So like if you have a question, like, if it's a personal one,
right,
to ask in there.
I wrote down a question that I haven't asked, but I'll just share with you and the audience it kind of went like this, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. Based on our data or my data or whatever, what market shares am I not hitting that I should, or something to that effect?
Okay, so I want to answer that, but I'm going to go in a roundabout way. So Anna said, what skills are you competent at? Okay, all of us, most of us, are competent at speaking. Okay, right? You're competent at speaking. So in 2022, the hottest programming language was JavaScript. Okay, and 2023, the hottest programming language is English. All right, because when you're prompting a large language model, you're programming it. Okay, there is no doubt about it, hands down, no doubt about it. Because what was the training data? Language, right?
Yeah.
What was the output? Language. So now you got this model, and language goes in, and language comes out, right? So the hottest programming language of 2023 and 2024 is going to be English, all right? And it's all about how you program the large language model. So what was your prompt again?
I was going to say, like, hey, ChatGPT, based on our current data and our analytics, what markets am I underutilizing or under developing, and almost like, hey, be my virtual CEO. Tell me what I'm missing. Like, what am I not seeing in my data interpretation?
So let's talk about programming that, okay? At the end of that prompt, go ahead and say, before you answer me, ask me 3 to 5 clarifying questions to help you give me a better answer.
Oh, see, that's brilliant.
Oh yeah, and it'll ask you questions that some of them you never would have thought of, and some of you are like, oh shit, why didn't I bring this up? And it'll ask you that. Or you can say, when you give me the answer, follow it up with 3 to 5 topics for further exploration that I can think about. You're programming the large language model by doing stuff like that. And those clarifying questions, ask you to ask clarifying questions, you'll get so much more out of it.
Well, hell, even while we're sitting here, just for the audience sake, all these questions for these guys are generated on AI.
Did you have writer's block?
Now, guess what? I didn't read a single one of them.
I can't read it for you yet.
No, I get engaged with you guys, and my brain just goes off. Oh, fuck it. I know. I want to ask you other questions.
There's so much to talk about it.
In the short time we have left, what did I not ask you that you feel relevant that we should talk to about the audience, just to get them inspired or keep asking questions or dive deeper?
Yeah,
Anna?
one thing that I'm really passionate about is our kids and how they're affected by technology and the level of isolation that they go through and experience. I was definitely one of those kind of isolated, lonely kids, and I think that we're seeing.
Was that by choice or environment?
That's a great question. I think it might have been a combination.
Okay.
But you have to find things that make you passionate, and they just kind of envelop you, and you just get so focused on them that you lose track of time, and you do it with people that you tolerate, but that you like being around.
Hey,
hopefully,
he's sitting right next to you.
I meant when I was young.
Oh, sorry.
He says it all the time. That's right.
That's
It's
hilarious.
like, Vincent, asshole.
I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah. Can I sit over there? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's all good. But yeah, I think that there's a major concern that with the time that people are spending on, say, like, there's Facebook was what people were saying, oh, my kids are on Facebook and they can't get off of it. And they were chatting back and forth with each other, or AOL, Instant Messenger. Now they're chatting with characters. So for social cues, I think that it's time to start meeting them right where they are. they're going to be online or browsing their phone or, playing video games, and it's time to introduce, nobody really likes to be trained. Let's just get it real. Like, if you know you're going through a training video, you're like, next, I get it, next. And the ability that AI presents is being able to have lifelike interactions with something that feels human. And what we're finding is kids are playing with these characters that are also, OpenAI is coming out with more of them on its own platform. And I think there's going to be an ability here to learn body language. Body language is considered to be 80% of face-to-face communication. And right now, we're not getting a whole lot of it as a society. But I think that a lot of my engineering friends back in the day also need that as well, because they are stuck in their basements. And, it would be really cool to get them out of the house.
Okay, touchy subject, but we have to go there.
Yeah.
With kids.
Yes.
Educational paradigm and system.
Yeah.
Throw it out the window, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
How do we help the educators realize, back to you, how are you going to use this? Education is not about the regurgitation of information anymore,
No.
right? So I am curious, like, you guys have we don't have much time left, but just at a high level, at kind of a macro discussion, what's been discussed about how to take AI and implement it into the learning models?
First of all, there are still a lot of teachers that are against AI.
Well, too bad. They're going to be left by the wayside.
Of course, they're going to be left by the wayside, naturally.
The kids will just revolt anyway.
So, let's think about our current educational system. It was created to prepare students for the Industrial Revolution, right? We didn't really need it before. You didn't need it for working in the fields and stuff like that, but you needed the current education system to get people working in the Industrial Revolution. Well, the Industrial Revolution is giving way to the computer AI revolution. I mean, we're living through a paradigm shift right now. How exciting is that, to live through a paradigm shift? You know what I mean? And by the way,
I might put that on my tombstone.
paradigm shifts, by the way, happen faster and faster every time.
Yes.
You think about the paradigm shift of hunter-gatherer to the agrarian age, right?
Ooh, good one.
That took a few thousand years, right? Then you think about the paradigm shift between urban to industrial revolution. That took a few hundred years. This paradigm shift is going to take decades. That's why I keep on saying it is not an option. You got to move forward. But we're seeing a lot of. I think in the education system, we need to really focus a lot more on critical thinking.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And not just, put words to it, but real critical thinking, because that is what AI is all about. Did you know that teachers would strike when the calculator first came out? Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And now what do? We teach kids how to use the calculator.
Yeah, it's like an abacus, right?
Right. And now they know how to use calculators. They're so much more efficient because they know how to graph on a calculator and use a calculator. And that's what we have to do with the kids today. We have to teach them how to use AI. Maybe a project might be, using...
Give them real life problems.
Yeah, give them a real problem.
Don't tell them how to
use.
solve it. Just give them the problem.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So we need to be utilizing that inside the schools.
They'll figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
That's the difference. We spent so much time preparing them for the journey. Give them the destination. Let the journey unfold on itself.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way of saying it, JJ. That's a really good way of saying it.
Pattern recognition is necessary to train AI, but is also necessary to train human beings. And so one of the biggest memories that I have from my early elementary school days was when my teacher had these colored bears, and she introduced there's 2 bears and now a yellow bear. 2 red bears, then a yellow bear. Then 2 more red bears, and then people couldn't figure it out for a second.
Because they were colorblind, but that's beside
there's that too.
Sorry, Anna, I had to throw that out there.
That's true, yeah. See,
Damn
that's
it,
the
you
outlier.
didn't see that coming.
I did not. I didn't see it.
It's the pink zebra.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that trips up machines too, right? So, that kind of stuff is just as important as recognizing words with reading and things like that, because that helps you understand what comes next with problem solving. And that general problem solving I would say is even more important than, art, because, I come from a very artsy family, but so if I was born from a bunch of engineers, I probably would have been saying the opposite. But, I would say that, regurgitation is not the same thing as engineering, though, either. So
I can't thank you enough. I know we could probably talk for 10 more hours.
Easily.
yes.
But in the hour, it just really it helps open the eyes to the audience. With that, I want to just repeat, Vincent Serpico and Anna, I'm going to get this right, Tomboulian.
Yes.
By the way, it's
Nice.
Armenian, I guess Czechoslovakian. Wasn't even
Close.
close. And then, of course, Vincent, I screwed up. He's Italian. I asked if it was Greek, so I got, don't shun
Partial
me, okay?
credit.
I'm
Partial credit. Yeah.
I'm a Polak. I need more AI. Hey, but back to, if anyone wants to reach out to him at Decision Tree AI. I know they would be more than happy to pay it forward. They're really connected in this space. I love what you guys talked about the BHAG, which is make Arizona number one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Why not?
That's right.
Shoot for the moon and fall with the stars or something like that. I always get that screwed up. So thank you guys for coming on today. Just really appreciate your time, and I hope to see you in the circles that keep conquering this moving forward.
My pleasure, JJ. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow JJ Levensky on LinkedIn and Instagram. Tune in every Monday